Hey, afternoon, everyone. Coming at you from a gorgeous 40-something degree day here on January 18th. Just another example of what seems to be our normal Iowa winters now, where we'll go from single digits to high double digits, back to single digits. Going to talk real quick about prepping the cows for extreme cold. We've got like I said, it's about 40. I think it's about 42 degrees right now. Yesterday was nice and mild. It got up to 40. And tomorrow's high is going to be 10 degrees. And then the day after that, we're going to be at 3 degrees. That's during the day. Those are actual temps. And then the actual overnight's going to be in the negative 10 to negative 15. So we've got quite the fluctuation of weather going on here. So what I've been doing over the past couple days is I've just been feeding a little increased hay, getting them ready for this cold snap. I knew it was coming. Obviously, I looked ahead, saw that it was going to be nice and mild, so I went ahead and took advantage of that. Went from so I bumped up our feed. If you guys remember when I started the winter feeding, I had calculated 3% of their body weight was going to be at about 110 pounds of hay a day. Well, I went, a couple, 2-3 weeks doing that and noticed that they really were not leaving anything on the ground. They were pretty much cleaning everything up. They were standing up at the gate in the morning when I'd come out. They weren't really noisy and, running for the hay, trying to knock it out of my hand like they do sometimes when they get really, really hungry. But they definitely, I think, were getting just enough to eat. So after a couple weeks of 110 pounds, I went ahead and bumped their feed up. I was about 115, 120. And, it's entirely possible that I underestimated their weights. Again, when I took their body weights for my 3% calculation in the fall, it was from when I had the girls in for preg check. And so that was early November. So we still had the rest of November and all of December to go before we truly got into hay feeding. So they undoubtedly put on a little bit of weight. Plus this red steer in front of me, I was just kind of guessing on what he would be. I had not had him in since summer. So I took his summer figure and I can't remember what I added, but it clearly wasn't enough. And actually that little heifer calf that we had this year, she actually eats more than I remember. That red steer when he was a calf, I don't remember him eating as much as she does. Her and her mom here, that small heifer, first calf heifer, they just eat. That's all they do. And obviously she's eating because she's growing a calf inside of her. She's nursing and she's a pretty petite heifer. I've talked about her before, but both her and her heifer calf there, they just eat and eat and eat. So she's eating a little bit more than I anticipated. So what I started doing, like I said, was when the weather was getting nice and mild. We've had really mild temperatures for the last 3 days. I just started throwing out extra feed. I bumped it up to about 130 pounds. And then yesterday, actually what I'm standing in right now is yesterday's hay. And you can see they left a lot of it. Yesterday was about 150 pounds worth of hay. And they had actually gotten a little bit more than that because, let me see if I can flip the camera around here. I'm working with one hand here. Had a little minor shoulder surgery, so I've got my dad helping me feed for the next 3-4 weeks, and it was a bit of a miscommunication. He ended up tossing a 30-pound bale on top of our 150 pounds that we threw out for the day too. So this pile here, they have left a lot, and this is a strategy I'll use too when the weather gets nice and I'm feeding extra hay, is I'll actually try and separate it out. Again, I didn't quite have the conversation with my dad before he threw out 100 pounds worth of hay all in one spot, but they'll lay on it. So when it's nice and mild like it is today, they'll eat what they get in the morning. They'll usually clean that up pretty good. And if they don't, they use that as bedding. They'll pick at it a little bit the rest of the day, but they really do leave a lot of it. So that pile over there is stuff that they just kind of ate on for a full day, and then they've been laying on it the last couple days because it's been so warm out. So one thing I'll do too when I do this kind of preparatory feeding is this was one pile. We had a pile kind of up there, you can see a little bit, and then we actually went up behind the barn this morning and fed them this morning, and that just kind of spreads them out so they don't pick at each pile, eat just a little bit of each pile and then lay down in it. You know, they get one pile in the morning and they clean that up really good, and then they get 2 separate piles in the evening. So we'll keep it at least 130 pounds throughout this cold snap. And I'll watch my residuals. I'll see how the cows are acting in the morning and how much they're leaving behind. And if need be, you know, I'll just feed out 3 heavy bales, you know, 3 50-pound bales, bump it up to 150 pounds every day until the cold snap's over. But, you know, and to be honest with you, again, going into third trimester, I might just keep them at about 130 pounds a day, and keeping the girls in the best condition possible is my number one priority. So we'll see how it goes. So on top of the increased feed that they get, you know, a few days out from the cold snap, I've also been feeding their protein cubes, and they would have been getting the Purina 20% protein and high energy cubes. They would have been getting that right now anyway, because we're officially in third trimester for these two right here. They're about 90 days out from calving, and number 46, the black cow on the other side of the red steer there, she's about 40 days behind. So she's not in third trimester yet, but she's kind of reaping all the benefits. So throwing out the protein cubes, bumping those numbers up just a little bit because of the weather coming, you know, just trying to get them as much energy as they can heading into the cold snap, and then the increased protein obviously just to help kind of keep their condition up. So we'll do that. And then bedding bales. I've been putting fresh bedding bales in the shed for the last couple days, just to really build up a nice fresh fluffy layer of clean stuff. So they're gonna have a nice couple 2-3 small square bales worth of fresh straw in there to really keep them warm. I also thought this would be a good time to kind of talk about this snow. You know, this is exactly why, when I was talking about earlier in the winter, you know, why I'm usually in a rush to kind of get through my stockpiled stuff, because this is the type of snow that they just have trouble grazing through. If we were wanting to have them graze through this, today wouldn't be too bad. They'd be able to get through this. It's nice and heavy and wet, and they can push it aside. But when we get to those really negative temperatures coming up, this stuff is going to just freeze into a solid block of ice, and there'd be no way that they'd be able to break through the crust or really dig down and get any grass underneath this snow layer. But crazy thing, this morning I wanted to talk about too. So I'm not sleeping very well, obviously, because I got to sit up in bed. I got one arm and a little bit of pain going on. So I was up at 2:30 in the morning. Decided to go try and lay on the couch for a little bit. And, you know, with the snow on the ground, bright, full new moon last night, it was lit up like day out here. So I peeked out the window just to see what the cows were doing, if they were sleeping or whatnot. And actually the small first calf heifer and her calf were coming out of the shed and were licking on that 30% protein tub I have down there. And she was kind of looking up here in the pasture, because again, this is where we fed the hay yesterday. So she was down there and she was looking up into the pasture, and I could tell she was thinking about wanting to come up and eat, but no one else was out of the shed yet, and I wasn't quite sure if she was going to make the trek alone. And she actually, I think, suckered her calf into coming, kind of following her a little bit. Her calf went to nurse. She'd let her nurse for a couple 5-10 seconds, and then she would she'd start walking. She'd start walking up here, so her calf would follow her. She'd stop. The calf would start sucking again, and I think she was just kind of baiting her into coming up so she'd have someone to come up and eat with. But craziest thing happened. So she got through that gate, and the heifer made it all the way up here and started nibbling on this hay, and her calf was, you know, back maybe 25-30 feet, about halfway between the hay pile and the gate back there. And I was watching them through binoculars, and all of a sudden I catch this coyote coming out of the corner back there from the neighbors. And let's see if I can use my other arm here. It comes out of the corner on the other side of the fence, and it starts trekking across the fence here and stops right at that gate. And again, the little heifer calf's probably about right here, and mama's nibbling on this hay here. And wouldn't you know it, that coyote decides to go ahead and start trekking up right behind that heifer calf. And she finally turned around and saw that coyote standing there. He probably was about 10 feet away. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, I really want to see what happens. Do I set the binoculars down and, go grab my pistol just to fire off some warning shots? Do I just run out onto the deck and make some noise, or do I just keep watching and trying to see what'll happen? Because I've seen the cows chase off coyotes before, but it's always been kind of middle of the day, very nonchalant. But right about the time I was trying to figure out what to do, Mama stopped eating, turned around, saw that coyote, and just bolted after it. Chased the coyote back into the back pasture. Coyote got to about halfway through the back pasture. Mama was still at the gate. Coyote stopped, turned around, and then, it was the only thing I can think of is that scene in Back to the Future. Some of you might not know what I'm talking about, but when Marty's getting chased by Biff and his crew, and he runs over to the car. He's at that school dance, and he runs over to the car, and they're getting ready to beat him up. And all four of those guys from the band that are playing at the school dance just open the car doors simultaneously and all stand, get out of the car, scare Biff and his buddies off. That's all I could think about, because that coyote, again, got about halfway into this pasture, turned around like he was going to start walking back on Mama, and like on cue, the rest of the girls and that steer calf just come marching out of that shed like a show of force. And that coyote turned around, the steer started walking at him, and he bolted, took off, ran over to the neighbors off to the north. And I didn't see him once he crossed the fence line, but it was great. And then the other two, and then that steer just came walking up to Mama and her calf, and they all kind of bundled up for a little bit, started butting heads like they were having a good time. And then all of them walked up and started eating hay, and they were still eating about an hour later. I decided to try and go back to bed, and I checked on them one more time, and they were all still up eating. So it was crazy. I just couldn't believe my luck on the timing. I guess I know coyotes out here are a lot different than what you get out west, just because the food is so plentiful, small woodland creatures and all sorts of berries and stuff that coyotes eat, that they really don't feel the need to have to go after cattle or their calves. So it's definitely not like you have out west or other places, but they've never really been that interested in the cows before. I was just shocked to see them go ahead and get as close as they did. But no, I was really happy to see that coyote. I don't want to give any wrong impressions or anything. Like I said, we'll catch them on the trail cameras every once in a while, but it doesn't seem like they are anywhere near as active as they used to be. Hang on, bud. Doesn't seem like they're anywhere near as active as they used to be. We've had just so much development up and down this road, and I know a lot of people's theory on coyotes and stance on coyotes is just to shoot them on sight, because that's what they think they should do. And we're 100% predator friendly on this ranch, and I completely welcome having them around. They are part of this ecosystem, and so yeah, I was really thrilled to see that one out and about this morning. And I know that February is kind of when they start denning up. They'll be having pups in March, so February they get in their dens and they're a lot less active. But I can honestly say for the last year, they just have not been as active as they used to be, and that, no doubt has to do with the amount of development that's been going on out here. It's too bad. So yeah, just enjoying this nice weather, a little bit of time off work. Oh, one other thing. Well, I got you guys. If anyone has any recommendations for better boots, these are the Muck Chore boots. I don't even think I got a year out of these before they stopped becoming waterproof. I had to cross the creek the other day to do something and realized that these things were no longer keeping water out. And out here in this wet, heavy snow, my socks are getting wet now. So if anyone has any recommendation for a good quality winter chore boot, I'm all ears, because I thought Muck boots were the ticket, but these things didn't last very long. All right, guys, we'll catch up with you later.